Afternoon, one and all. Today I'm going to go ahead and do a back-to-back upload to stay on top of my goal to set for try knocking out up to 2 a week. I've yet to do 2 a week now, so this will be my first one of doing 2 reviews in 1 week. Actually, back-to-back days too. I finished filming the Gambino album review last night, close to probably honestly 10 p.m. to midnight or so. Happy to see all the love on that one. I might try to cover more immediate drops, because I can see that some people really like it when I get on an album really quick turnaround like that. Or more popular artist. I mean, people like Gambino, he's a really big artist, so happy to see that that's now next to the Mother album review, the second most watched review on the channel. I guess a reminder, I forgot to add that on that video because I was a little low energy on the last one. Like and subscribe, comment album reviews, song reviews, anything music related topic wise you think I should cover on the channel that you're interested in. I would love to hear other modern 2024 album review, or just album suggestions in general, so I can kind of add on some more fan content, fan album suggestions, things I might never listen to otherwise. Get to my own, because people get in their own bubble. I like stepping out of my bubble. I actually, honestly, growing up, got into some bands that I love to this day because of other friends kind of introducing it to them and putting me onto stuff. I got my comb here because I like to fidget with things, and I don't know if anybody else in my comments or who watches my videos watches Deb Spinkle, and I felt like I'd be more official if I have an instrument like a spoon or something like she has to talk like this. So I have a little microphone because I'm just using my phone, but it makes it feel more official if I'm talking into something. Gets me more on focus for the topic. So today's album review is going to be on Yeule Softscars 2023 album review. So it comes from last year. I'm pretty sure middle to end of last year. Not pretty if I'm correct. I forgot to check the date on that. I'll look that up as I'm kind of going over it. But I would say Yeule in general is very electro, synth heavy, glitch, indie, pop, rock, grunge. Gives a lot of different meshes of things, and I really enjoy that. Honestly, it's very much a mood. I would say this album is definitely one of the more somber ones that they've ever released. September 22nd, 2023. Okay, so it was pretty recent actually. At the very tail end of last year. I haven't seen the music videos posted. I'm excited to kind of follow up on some of these reviews I've been going over and kind of take my channel as my reviews on the channel as a baseline to watch all the music videos from each album, because sometimes I end up missing the videos from certain things. One that I missed in that last review was go watch the Littlefoot Bigfoot song music video that Gambino released with the re-release of the album, new feature Young Nudie on it. Yeah, I would say this album is a very somber listen. It puts you in a very specific mood, in moments kind of very sad moods. Not totally sad, just kind of melancholy, I think is the best way to describe the tone of this album. It gets happier by the end, but I would say a good chunk of it is very melancholy in the delivery. So I'll go ahead and I took notes on this one. I didn't take notes on the Gambino one because I've heard it so many times. Maybe that album review would have been longer if I did, but I will say that it's one of those type of reviews where even though as I sit down to kind of go into it, I was like, well, shit, this album is just so good to me that it's sometimes hard to quantify into words when something hits you in a specific way where I'm like, damn, this is some of my favorite songs of all time. I think To Be Hunted, I would say To Be Hunted, Time, Algorithm, basically that whole from song number 2 to song number 4 or 5, some of my favorite songs ever. I really, really, really love them. Especially To Be Hunted really hits me in an emotional way in my core to this day, where I'm god damn, there's not really a core good way I could describe the song to somebody other than just sending it to them in a link in in their DMs and be like, hey, listen to this song. It's an amazing song. It's been stuck with me for a long time now. But back to the focus on this album review, Yeule Softscars. So the theme to Yeule, very, very Android electronic-esque, talks a lot about AI, the internet, kind of living online. And as somebody who, I guess a lot of you now, because if you watch this, you're watching it online. We kind of all exist online to a certain point. At this day and age, especially, unless you just are pure internet. It's hard, but it's still hard in the modern day to exist in an anti-internet sense. You kind of are forced to in ways you don't really think about. Like if you're in public, say, like you're signing up for something, like you're getting signed up for a product in like a booth in a mall or something. They're probably using the internet to sign you up, whether you know that or not. Like most card machines are ran through the internet and through internet access. I've worked on them, put them together, set them up for stores and stuff like that, for Walmarts, things like that in previous jobs. And those require internet to run. They require power and internet and a connection to make sure that all the money that's going in through the store is connected to they're getting the funds in so that they can kind of track all that, because a lot of people use credit cards. Before I get too much of a rant on this, I'll kind of cover the baseline. The reason why I'm covering Yeule today is because Yeule is a fellow non-binary person, and as I talk with this channel, I want to cover more non-binary specifically because I identify as non-binary, go by they, them. Non-binary, queer, gender fluid, those type of artists on this channel. I really want to pump out more reviews on artists like that because, one, to get me to revisit or listen to more artists like that, because it's really good to see representation like that in the public, especially in arts. And in this way, the only time it really comes up on this album is in a positive way. And I think we need more positive queer representation, positive queer or non-binary, or just we need more positive non-binary and queer representation, because for so long queerness in media was only given as as something to be punished. The kill your gays trope is something that existed through media, especially in books, for years, as an unspoken rule for a lot of authors, given that, if you don't know the history on this, for many years pulp novels could have gay characters in them, whether fictional or real, or fictional or set in, mostly fictional in this instance I'm talking about. A lot of pulp novels would have fictional characters in them that were gay, represented as gay or lesbian or something like that, but the key rule for it would be they need to die by the end because they need to be punished for their gayness. So going into, I would say, the 20th, 21st century, 22nd century eventually, we need more positive non-binary, queer, gender fluid, gender queer representation in media, just to have it out there for people to really embrace and know that it's not a wrong thing. It's good to be yourself. It's good to represent yourself. It's good to see yourself represented in things. Which is what drifted me to do this. What drifted me to do this review next. XWX is the opener, all lowercase, kind of spelled in the text speech way of making faces, the ooh faces, and I think that's a great way to kind of set us off in the tone of how this album's going to be. My main notes here for this opener song is, I love the glitchy punk start to this album. The drums and screaming really bring us in heavy. I love the lines that opens up, pretty boy, sicko boy, psycho, let me guess, let me know, borderline overdose. The title shout out at the end of the opener, soft scars on my skin, porcelain to the end. And that's something that I'm yeah, this is one of the 3 times on this album that the term soft scars will come out. That's the name of the album. Quick water break. And I like when albums have a through line through them. I like when albums have a good core plot or address the album title, because sometimes you get halfway through an album and wait, what the fuck was this thing called again? So I like when albums bring up or mention the title in ways that feel like it kind of adds to the overarching narrative or story sometimes, if there's a concept album. And this one definitely gives it the term soft scars come up multiple times in different ways, and I like that. It kind of gives multiple interpretations to the meaning of the album. Second song, Sulky Baby. Synthy wavy intro, edited vocalizations to match weird textures it paints. Yeah, still agree with that. Very light singing to open us up, contrast the intro song. Yeah, I still stand. I just listened to it on the drive over to park here, so I'm kind of getting my thoughts fresh as I'm thinking about the album, because I don't want to let it sit for too long and then kind of forget the main thoughts or gripes I had about it. Let's see. Instrumentations all kind of soak their voice up into the beat, especially by the chorus. It feels like their voice is swallowed up by the beat. That kind of happens a few times on the album, I would say, even from the first track in some bits. It very much feels like their voice is a part of the instrumentation of the album as a whole, and not how some pop albums can be produced, where the voice is obviously forefront, instrumentations are backing. A lot of artists, actually, if you focus on the production levels of songs, end up doing that, where the vocals are pushed forward at least a little bit, so the instruments can kind of be in the background and you can understand the vocalist. I personally like when vocalists can mesh into the instrumentation and kind of make their voice like an instrument into itself, especially with some vocalizations they do in this album. They kind of edit their voice around in glitches or weird edits where it just kind of sounds like another instrument or thing or possibly synth going on in the background. Sometimes it's kind of indistinguishable in this album. I really like that. Any more comments on Sulky Baby? Let's see. The ending kind of levels out as the sound goes down and kind of brings everything to a slow, mellow drone out of the song. This is one comment that I will say won't make this a perfect 10 out of 10 album for me. I'd say it's roughly an 8 to 9 out of 10 album depending on my mood. And that's because this is a very melancholic and some point slow album, and I'm not always the biggest slow album person, but this is an artist and a approach that really pulls me back in to some of the slowness. It gives you a good back and forth of picks it up, brings it back down a little bit, but then the lead out of one song will lead into another and picks us back up, which is what this song does. It leads us into Softscars, the title track. A bouncy beat, probably the most accessible song so far on the album, outside of the somber lyrics on the chorus. You stabbed me right in the chest and made me want to bleed and made me wet with my own blood, drained with love. It's pastel pink. It's sweet, I think. I love the digital video game type edits going on with the chorus. First hits the album. I'm trying to reverse this. With on the chorus when it first hits. The album itself feels like a very digital, very otherworldly texture to it, which I think fits perfect for especially by, let's see, we're on track 3 at this point. The deeper you get into Yeule albums, it just kind of feels like its own very digital, otherworldly setting. And I really like that it can paint that world for you. It really gives you a certain image, aesthetic, and energy from this artist. Embracing the weird and loving it all the way through and really going all the way with it. There's a few points in this album where it hits a pop level, but in the places that you really need, because the album starts getting weird in a sense where you're this balances out the weirdness is happening here, so I'm drawn back in. It gets a little more accessible. I would say to an average listener, I like some really weird music, but I do agree that sometimes showing people things that are really, really far out there, showing a random person the weirdest 100 gecs or Death Grip song isn't really going to be super accessible. Just show them Stupid Horse. Just show them Fever by Death Grips, and then you'll have pick the most accessible things for the people you're currently showing it to. If somebody says they like weird music, show them weirder shit. If somebody you're kind of on the edge on, or you don't know, or they like more accessible things, just show them the highlights. That's okay. I think people who are in more experimental noise or weird music like I am can sometimes get in the weeds of understanding the audience of sharing music to people. Let's see, any more comments on the title track? Da-da-da-da. It ends with, I can't love you like you love me, babe. Softscars. It leads into my favorite song, For You, I Want To. Probably the catchiest one in the album, I would say, next to Cyber Meat. I would say Cyber Meat, this one, and Blood Bunny are my top 3 favorites on these revisits so far, as in catchiness and just being able to throw it on in a shuffle or something, or I think about the song often. I really think about the tone and the beat and how it sounds in my head for You a lot. My favorite song on re-listens so far, very catchy, with the chorus repeating both the way the title is formed and in the way of I want to for you, I want to. So even though it's the letter spelling, it's also in the way of how letters and numbers and just individual letters can be used online to kind of give a message that otherwise would kind of be indistinguishable offline. This song gives us a way to look at the title and you're kind of confused of what it means, but when you hear it, you get a pretty clear message about what it means. I want to do this for you. For you, I want to be the best, do the things you love, be a person you can love. There's a lot of interpretations on how that's left when it gets to that point. Let's see. I love lines like how the verse opens in one part to dehumanizing me, romanticizing me, artificially. And this kind of speaks to a way of like, I do feel like, especially seeing a lot of concerts open up back post-COVID, how people throw things at artists on stage. I've seen it in person, so I've been to a few concerts post-COVID. It would happen before COVID a bit, but it's really picked up traction a lot post-COVID, how artists and musicians can be dehumanized to a way where you're just like, you make the art for me, do the thing for me, you are my entertainment, play my favorite song, in ways where it can be really dehumanizing, but also romanticizing. Like, there's a lot of people who are attracted to their favorite artists, and that's not to say that, like, it is very true that a lot of modern pop artists are so popular because they're conventionally attractive in some way or another. So that kind of plays into it as well. But it sucks that, like, especially many femme-presenting artists really have to sexualize themselves in a way where to market themselves. From what I've seen from Yeule, they don't do that as much. Like, they present in ways that I feel definitely, I understand it's comfortable to them, but in ways it's very embraces that electro android type aesthetic, kind of in the way how Jasmine Bean embraces the weirdness and the very much like full makeup most times or in public appearances, very like grungy clothing, things like that. Yeule kind of gives the same way, but more in the sci-fi level side of aesthetics, especially from the album cover. The album cover is really cool. If you haven't seen it, I would say look it up. Look it up on a separate tab. Leave this running. Don't leave. I mean, if you're able to leave and come back and watch it, I don't care. But no, actually, for real, just finish videos when you can. I do that all the time. Who cares? Any more comments on For You? Let's see. The song is so somber, like the album itself, but really a core statement, this song, of it next to the title track especially. The beats are still bouncy, but odd enough to not be a fully poppy beat. This kind of leads us, kind of another slowdown, but leads us into Ghost, which is the acoustic ballad slowdown, the first really big slowdown of the album. 30 seconds in, the drums hit, and the synths slowly stack on, little by little, until around the 2-minute mark when it all kind of coagulates together. Makes a really big electro-wavy soup, is what I wrote down. I love it. Yeah, I do love this album. I'd say it came out at the end of last year. It's probably already my 5th to 7th listen on a revisit. I really do like this album. Feels like what drifting on TV static would be like. It's the slowest song in the album so far. And this is one where, like, I don't go back and pick out listening to Ghosts often, but when I'm listening to it in the album in full, I'm not skipping it. It's kind of the mood of why this would bring this down to like a 9 out of 10 album, even my best day. And like, it's a slowdown, but I think at this point it's a necessary slowdown for how hectic the album's been in points up to this point. This leads us into Daisies. More electro grunge on this song, with the guitar and drum lead in, winds down to a more simple guitar riff while they sing, "You like rotting in your bed, when was the last time you were fed?" And I was like, God, that's such a mood some days. I've been in a pretty good mood the past, I would say 2 or 3 days, but there are some days where I feel like everybody gets this feeling where you're like, I just want to bed rot. I just want to stay here. The world can go fuck itself. And that's okay. It's okay to have those days. Just know that it won't always be that way. Let's see. Any more comments on Daisies? From the second half, it repeats lyrics, and the instrumental kind of chugs its way out with screaming as it stacks on in the background. And this is the second track that really just brings in this, like, very, very, not guttural, I'm trying to think of the right word for it, very pitchy scream in the background, like, just kind of throws it out of nowhere, just this intense scream. And I really like how it pivots in those ways where I'm like, I didn't really expect that, but that really brings this sort of certain energy. That leads us into Software. Skipping some songs. That leads us into Fish in the Pool, our only instrumental song. Piano ballad with a beautiful humming along to the tune. A great fit to break up the intensity of the last track. This is one that immediately went on my favorite tracks of all time list. It's just such a soothing listen. And I feel like even on a bad day, having this in the background just feels very fulfilling and heartwarming. Which slowly kind of piano tune leading us into Software Update. Opens with "You're never alone, I'm inside your phone." which I wrote, yeah, when opening, especially with modern streaming, like, yeah, we can choose artists from our phone and just kind of pick them out whenever we want, just kind of off a shelf. It makes me think a lot about Dance Gavin Dance song Shelf Life, and how like an artist can make a song about how all artists kind of exist on this invisible shelf for us to pluck off and put back on, but we don't think about them going through the experience of making that music, touring that music, when we can just like, for some discographies, in the span of like a day or 2 days, listen to every album they have and then move on. I like when it gets to the part and phrasings, I love you baby, I love you too, but you said it like you were programmed to. Probably the saddest one here, with the beat and message-wise really kind of hitting in and giving you enough room to breathe in the track to understand what they're saying. And when it hits in what they're saying, I'm like, oh, this is sad. I wish, I kind of wish it wasn't this way for you, but I understand that there was a point in your life where this is how you felt, and I'm sorry for that. Probably the saddest one on here in the track listing, within finishing the album, it is the saddest song on the album. But this synth wall comes to lead us out on I Love You. It's like kind of goes back like I love you too. It kind of leads us out. A lot of like lead out, lead ins to these songs. I like that. I like that it keeps this texture of like having a full track listing. I don't feel like anything is like out of order, or could be reordered in a way that I would drag songs around and reorder it. It feels like it's perfect in the way it is, and I really like that. It leads us into the song Inferno, a very glitchy orchestra type intro. Really took me off guard with the orchestra type vibe going on. I don't know if it actually is like violins or harp or something like that. It really does, it brings some strings in. I really like that. Very light vocalizations and beat build really kicks in a minute in, and I love this one. Another really catchy, almost pop level song the second it kicks in. Then that leads us into Blood Bunny. Love the song title, very cute. Just like with a few of these song titles and the album title itself, I love the titling. I'm a big like titling and art person. Cute title. I love singing along to. Bite into you, you bite me too. It's very cute. I do bite my fiance, she bites me back. I'll have another other way. Very sweet romantic energy to this one. The happiest the album gets, and near the end brings us back up to a nice 5. Digital blips up and down chime to us. Softscar comes back up, now marking that 1/4 of the album has said the words Softscar at some point, and that addresses the title. And I mentioned before, I like albums with a through line. That's kind of the point where I kind of had that thought, and I was like, oh yeah, this album has a definite through line through it of bringing back up the title multiple times, but in different contexts. I think here it was like soft scars on my porcelain skin taste like cinnamon or something like that. The lines porcelain skin come up a few times too. Which I don't mind, kind of fits the aesthetic and the vibe of how this album's going about. And if you've seen the picture of Yeule or seen the music videos or the album cover, then yeah, they're very doll-esque in the vibe that in the look that's going on. I can get why they mention like how they feel like they have porcelain skin. They look, it kind of look gives the appearance, at least from the artwork and pictures I've seen of them. Leads into Cyber Meat, another good digital pop rock song. This is probably the poppiest one on here. I love the lines, there's a boy and girl inside me too, non-binary. There's a boy and girl inside me too, non-binary, it's true. It's hard to deliver that. It's a very fulfilling line to sing along to, and representation in art means a lot. Kind of mentioned that earlier in the review, but this is also a part of the album where I had the thoughts, bring it back up in the notes. Especially positive representation. This is a very warming song for me. The album continues to feel happier leading out to the outro, which is Aphex Twin Flame. A reference to the band Aphex Twin, who I listen to off and on in bits. Never really clicked with me, at least not yet. Maybe sometime by the end of the year I'll end up revisiting one of their most recent albums and see how it feels, but nothing about the music's ever really clicked with me in a specific way, but I do like the reference to it because many queer people love Aphex Twin, especially other trans people, trans and non-binary people. You mention it to them and you're probably like, oh yeah, I fucked with Aphex Twin, it's heavy. Another acoustic ballad intro, in the lines, time and time again, I feel ever so slightly less than real. I talk to things that don't reply. I count the time like friends who die. And this line hits really hard because it's probably one of the first places in the album that give you enough space, and the line itself on friends who die like lingers for you to really soak in what they're saying. The beat hits in about halfway through, and the dread of this outro really starts to set in the more you get in like the 1.5, 2 minute mark of like how this kind of brings a peak to the somberness of this album. It builds up around 2:20 to an intense echoing drop of the vocals, very all-encompassing in the production, as like it kind of gets to a point where it feels like the production itself is a room around the vocalist, and then Yeule is echoing throughout it, like trapped within it but still echoing within the song. And that is such a kind of glorious and great way to go out on this album. The more I talk about it, like it kind of peaks its way into like a 9 or 10 album of like almost perfect album to me. I think on some days I would say it's like a perfect listen for me, depending on the mood. But yeah, how do you feel about this album? Let me know how you feel in the comments. Let me know if you like the review. I'll probably come back with another one next Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, depending on the time I get to record it, on the notes I take on albums. I might cover more. Here's my lineup. Friday is usually like Friday release calendars, is when Friday's usually new album drops. I'll try to cover one new album from Friday, and then one from a non-binary or queer artist that I really want to focus on and give light to. And that'll come in my lineup for the weeks going forward. So between next Monday and Wednesday, you should see at least one other album review out. Remember to like, subscribe, share this video with your friends, leave comments about album reviews you would like to see. I mean, it doesn't have to be just albums. It could be albums, songs, anything like that. Weird art covers. I love weird art covers. I'm going to cover that at some point in the channel. I'm just going to kind of form up a bit my notes on it and kind of bring out my favorite weirdest art covers, and eventually work on editing. Maybe like behind me I'll kind of throw in edits of album covers that I think are probably the weirdest or my favorite in the past few years. Or I might make a favorite album covers of all time. That'd be a really exciting video to make. That'd be a longer project. But yeah, share this video with friends, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll be back next week. Bye. Bye-bye.